gentleman from Florida, Mr. Franklin, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to our witnesses, too, for what has definitely been a long and tedious afternoon for you. We appreciate your patience. My first question is for Director Ray, and for the sake of consistency, I've asked this question of our witnesses in the other hearings from Department of Justice, the DOD, and the Metropolitan Police. Director Ray, what security agency would you say has the primary responsibility for security of the physical security of the Capitol?
My understanding is that's the U.S. Capitol Police.
Okay, well, that's been the consistent answer, and as has come up multiple times here this afternoon, we're now into several hearings regarding this issue, and we've yet to have anyone from the Capitol Police. It seems to me that's a waste of time until we can get those folks here in the room. General Pyatt, you had mentioned in your testimony that I think we had 350 Guard troops that started the morning that showed up for duty initially in the morning doing traffic and crowd control. Is that correct?
That was the total. They had less than that for 2 shifts, so that was the total for 2 shifts. But they were out on traffic control points, unarmed, and on crowd control locations throughout the district.
Okay, traffic and crowd control. How many were ultimately activated by the end of the day?
By the end of it, when the day started, there were about 350 guardsmen were activated. By the end of the day, that number increased probably to 600 to 700. I have to get the right number for you, sir.
Okay, and that the balance of those troops that showed up later in the day, what were they doing at the beginning of the day?
They were most likely in their civilian location. We got the full mobilization order at 3:04 by the Acting Secretary of Defense, and then we were able to mobilize and recall people. So they came in from either their civilian workplace or wherever they were, and that's very, very fast given the circumstances.
And what time again was that they would have been activated, say, from their civilian jobs and told to head, and I assume they were told to head straight to the Armory to pick up their gear?
Congressman, yes, 3:04 is when the Acting Secretary of Defense gave the full mobilization order for the DC National Guard.
Okay, and so from the traffic control and crowd control mission early in the day, not only did the mission change, the command structure, the tactics, the rules of engagement, I mean, there's a complete change in mission set from what they thought they might have been getting earlier in the day to what ultimately happened, correct?
Correct, Congressman. They were working for the Metropolitan Police Department, and now they were going to move to a federal police department of the Capitol Police, which they had to be re-sworn in, but they had to be re-equipped, reconfigured for this new mission for civil unrest.
I know there had been some talk that you might have commented about the optics of how it looked having Guard troops there at the Capitol. You weren't sure you said that, but in the heat of discussing contingencies, it might have been said. But I think I've also heard you say, too, that you discussed the difference in the mission and really what our Guard troops are trained to do versus the special type of training required to conduct that mission in the Capitol. Could you expand on that a little bit for us?
Yes, Congressman. I don't recall saying the word that day because the optics were clearly a mob storming the Capitol. That was not an important consideration at that time. What was important was getting the Capitol secure, and to rapidly clear the Capitol when you had criminals with perhaps lethal intent is what we were tracking. You had innocent civilians mixed. That's a pretty high level task for very well-trained law enforcement to do. To take soldiers who are out on traffic control points or postured to do that, to put them into that situation, we just weren't positioned to do that.
Very good. I would just like to make it clear that I think that the Guard did a remarkable job in responding in the time frame, especially given the circumstances. It's interesting, we have 45 members of this committee, and this has been a noticed hearing for a week, and it still took us a half hour to get the hearing started. So I think in light of everything happening that day, it was pretty remarkable. And I just want to say my hat's off to all the folks who did make that response. Personally, I feel it was a failure in Capitol leadership, Capitol Police leadership, but unfortunately, we've yet to have any of them here before us to testify, even though there's been ample opportunity, and I hope we get that eventually. But thank you all for your time this afternoon. I yield back.
The gentleman yields.